People, welcome back to Newspaper Breakdown. Been off for a little while, but we're coming back with the budget special. I know it's the budget was last week, but I am not an economist, so actually understanding the budget took me a moment. I didn't want to just spew out words that meant nothing. But we have pages to go through. We'll start with the obvious bits. There were a lot of things missing from the budget. There were always going to be. As an example, there was nothing about housing, because fuck them. Housing, of course, majorly important, because there isn't enough. And rents are going up. Yeah, cost of housing is still going up for some reason. I'm not sure how. Well, I do know how. It's supply and demand, isn't it? And there isn't enough supply. So there's nothing in there. And this whole budget is... it wanted to seem like it was nicer than it is, and it's not. One of the big things, oh yeah, woo, we do not expect to go into a technical recession this year. That's two quarters of down growth, and that's our whoop whoop moment. So that's 2 quarters of negative growth, one after the other. But the economy is still expected to shrink. So although we're not going to have a technical recession, we're not growing. So what we've done is we've lucked out. That's it. We're still going to be down, but it's not going to knock us into a technical recession. And we're meant to be praising Jesus at this point, going, oh, isn't this amazing? Look at us. Aren't we talented? It's still bad, of course. We are then expected to grow a small amount, like 2% a year, over the next few years. But what's interesting about that, of course, is that what Hunt has done is allowed himself a few things that look good now, but he sold us down the river for the future. Now, if he did a budget that was more in line with figures, say six months ago, then growth, what the forecasted growth was higher over the next 5 years. However, what he's done with this budget has meant that although the economy is going to shrink less than it would have done, say like 0.2% down instead of 0.7% down, something like that. That is going to have a knock-on effect for the next 5 years, where we're not going to grow as much as we could have done, which is altogether a negative, and continues to show that governments have an incredibly short-term view on how to fuck us. Before, of course, we were going to be hit harder. Growth. Hunt has sacrificed the growth going forward to make it seem less shit now, arguing that although we're still being shat on from up high, we're being shat on by a pigeon instead of an ostrich. Everything was spoken around growth. There was a lot of talk of growth. We need to grow the economy, which we haven't done. We haven't done in 13, 15 years, really. But all of this talk of growth has shown that, according to the Resolution Foundation, it has meant that workers in the UK are £11,000 worse off a year after 15 years of almost completely unprecedented wage stagnation. At £11,000 a year, put it over 15 years, you do the maths, I can't be bothered. But that means that we have lost considerable amount of money singularly because we have had a Tory government. That has cost everyone, apart from the very rich, who are absolutely fine, money. Cost them all. Absolutely everyone. You, me, fucking Dave down the road. Everyone has been cost money because of who people decided to vote for. That's why it's so important to vote, one could argue. You can, of course, look at things like COVID and the Ukraine war as reasons for the bad economy, and certainly you have to take into account that those things did indeed occur. But you can't look away from Brexit and having the Tories in power, wanking over austerity that they want to still continue doing, as a means to get work in people Rogers, because that's it. That's the whole fucking thing. Brexit, austerity, 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 every fucking day, austerity. That is the bad thing. Because even when they said to us, I'd say austerity's ended now, it hadn't done. Because once you've cut off a leg, you can't say, well, we're done cutting things now. No more cutting. Everything's fine. No, the leg's gone, mate. The leg's gone. I mean, in this point, you'd have to expect us to be lizards and hopefully the fucking leg grows back, which would go into conspiracies about how everyone's a fucking lizard, but I'm not getting into that. At this time, it is also important to remember that the UK tax burden is the highest it has been in 70 years, meaning that we, of course, have less money to spend, and tax to GDP is massively high because the economy's not growing, and austerity means that we're putting the government is putting less investment in, so they're getting less money back. Tories love to talk about bringing down debt. It's one of their favourite things to say since the days of Osborne. It's all been, we need to bring down debt, bring down debt. It's been a phrase that the Tories have loved saying the most, but the forecast of this budget suggests that we still will not be making any significant inroads in lowering our debt, even with record higher taxes, for two main reasons. This is one, we pay very high debt interests, and two, we have not and probably will not grow the economy. I've said it a number of times, I'll probably say it again, growing the economy is vastly important, but when you have a Tory party that have for 13 years not fucking done that, it makes it very difficult. And this is the thing, like you've got Starmer going on, saying every 4 seconds, saying, well, we need to grow the economy, we need to grow the economy. He hasn't exactly told us how he's going to do it, has he? And I know everyone's saying, I tell you though, there are so many problems. So many problems. And there are tons of problems. Lots of the fuckers. Oh, gosh. Reams of fucking problems. But having an economy where you can actually make money in, that helps to stop a couple of them. If you have a functioning economy, as it was showed in the last Labour government, you can actually work in getting rid of things like homelessness. You can pump in real terms the amount of money that the NHS needs. You can fix social problems if you have money to do it. Hope and a prayer don't work. You can't wish on a star because it's pointless. It doesn't matter. You may as well fucking thoughts and prayers for every gun victim in a school in America. It is absolutely pointless. You actually have to have money in this world, in this capitalist society that we live in. You have to have money to do things. You'll hear from many people that Hunt has not done a bad job with this budget in, of course, difficult circumstances, which is true. What they seem to fail to mention is that it is completely self-inflicted. COVID, fucking Ukraine war, you can bring them up every time you fucking want. But we are the only G7 nation that has not passed where we were before the pandemic. That's nothing to do with COVID or the Ukraine war, because every other fucking country has done. We haven't, because of the people that are running this country. That's it. 13 years, and we could have had a stronger economy beforehand, before the pandemic, which would have meant that the pandemic and Ukraine war wouldn't have hit us as hard. We could have put more money into renewable energy back in 2010, so that the Ukraine war wouldn't have affected us as much. We knew that we needed to. This isn't a brand new... climate change hasn't just come from nothing. We knew about climate change and the fact we needed to do something about it. You had Thatcher talking about it in the 80s. There's so much that could have been done to prevent things like the Ukraine war. Hell, with COVID, in 2016, when we did a test to see how prepared we were, and it turns out we fucking weren't, we could have done something then to make sure we were more prepared, so fewer people died, so we didn't have to be locked down for so much, so it didn't have to fucking hurt the economy. We had options, but, as always, the people who ran it, the people who were in charge, they are the reasons. They're the ones. Also, there is a high chance that the Tories will not be, of course, in power next year or the year after. So everything that he has said may not even happen. He said, oh, well, this is what we're going to do for the next 5 years, and this is how it's going to look, and this is how the winds, everything's going to be and everything. But he's not going to be there, so there's going to be a new budget. There's going to be a new budget, and there may be a Labour budget, which will change things. With regards to public sector pay, hardly anything was mentioned. No money was set aside for pay rises higher than what has already been rejected. So if it has been suggested, as it has been suggested, the government comes with a new higher pay offer, there has been no indication where that money's coming from, which is dumb. It really is fucking stupid. But it will come, as most things come, with more cuts. That will be. So now if we look over at tax, first we have something that was not mentioned actually in the budget, but was announced outside of the budget, and that is the freezing of income tax and income tax allowances and thresholds, which is a tax rise. That's the truth of it. There has been another tax rise, because if you freeze something and you've got inflation, it's a tax rise. It seems counterintuitive, I'm aware, to think that a freeze is a tax rise, but there are allowances in our income tax for when you start paying tax, of course, and then the jumps, of course, 20, 40, 45. Normally the thresholds go up because inflation's going up. So if you put the threshold, if the threshold goes up, you're not paying any more tax just because you have more money in cash terms, but not in real terms. The threshold is meant to move so that you only pay what you actually get. So if you actually get richer, then you pay more tax, which is how it should be. If you consider £10,000 in 1980 is worth a lot more than £10,000 now. That's why, with inflation, that's why you move the threshold, so that someone being dragged into paying tax now, who are still going to be considered in fucking poverty, but now they have to pay tax because their earnings have gone up, not in line with inflation, but the threshold hasn't gone up to take that into account. It's the same with being dragged into paying a higher rate of tax and everything else. Instead of the income tax allowance going up, it has been frozen on both income tax and national insurance. So as prices go up with inflation and the size of inflation, it will drag more people into paying tax and a higher rate of tax, even though in real terms they are not making any more money. So that's just making people poorer. What that will mean is 1.7 million people will have to start paying income tax, and 1.2 million who will be dragged into paying a higher rate of tax, which means what, collectively 2.9 million just for this bit will be poorer. Over the next 6 years, 3.2 million will be paying income tax where you can argue shouldn't, and over 2 million higher rate. So 3.2 million will be paying tax they would not be paying if the allowance had been moved up with inflation. So in April you can expect for the majority of people a £500 hit for normal taxpayers and a £1,000 hit for higher rate taxpayers. Once again, we've had fuel duty frozen, which is it's just a running joke at this point, and a disgusting one. This is 13 years of freezes. It doesn't have to be. We could put that up, get some money from it, but we haven't done. Every year, the government, the cesspit that is the government, lies to us by saying that fuel duty tax will go up next year. That means that fuel duty tax rises tend to be baked into numbers for future forecasts, making all of the numbers wrong. There's no reason to keep fuel duty frozen for 13 years. Absolutely none. Except the Light of the Sun continue to lobby for it in their papers. That's it. That's it. Such a stupid thing. That's it. You have a look. There was a 5p cut last year on fuel duty as well, because gas prices went all the way up, diesel, petrol all the way up, but that has dropped by 40p since, and we haven't removed that 5p cut. So there's another tax cut on it, and I don't. Where's the thought? Where's the win? Where is the win there? I can't see it. We've still got a few pages to get through, so if you're still watching this, congratulations. Now to pensions. This is one of the big pieces of news. We have increased the annual allowance you can put in tax-free and a complete removal of the lifetime allowance. So you can put in lifetime as much tax-free money into your pension as you can. The lifetime allowance was about £1 million, which is a lot. Then you would have started to be taxed, which is this pension thing is great for the rich. That's it. Also means that you don't have to pay inheritance tax if you leave your pension to someone, which is another win for the rich. Although it's good that they are incentivizing people to put money into their pension. At this point, my pension is going to be like a fucking box of pills and a fucking good album at this point. We have to find better ways of incentivizing than just allowing the rich to get even richer, really. The argument that Hunt made was that why he's doing this would mean that doctors and people in general will stop them from leaving to retiring early, because you get to a point you go, well, I can't put any more into my pension, so there's no point in me working anymore, which makes sense to a point, but it's not going to make any real difference. If you wanted more doctors, then pay junior doctors better. Make becoming a doctor a viable plan nowadays. Stop shitting on doctors. Make the NHS better. That'd be my idea, but give the rich a fucking tax break. That's also an idea. We look over in corporation tax. A decade of corporation tax going down, of course, until Sunak last year or the year before put everything back up to 25% again, and now Hunt has added a full expensing of investments, which means that businesses can deduct all investments immediately for the next 3 years. Which is of course stupid. We all know this, not only because 3 years is such an arbitrary number, which it is, which they want it so that they can argue, well, under the Tories, look how much business investment came in, and then it all went, because you've only set it up for 3 years, because it's fucking dumb. Hunt could, this is also, Hunt could pretend that he's hitting his targets that he's set for himself. The problem with corporation tax is it's changed so often, so quickly. We've had like 5 different changes in 3 years in our corporation tax. And if you want to get business investment, have a sustainable corporation tax. Have a sustainable plan that people can fucking follow. That's what you want. Because what you got, these 3 years, people are going to put money into the economy for 3 years, going, right, let's get this, and then fucking drop after. And it's not good. There's no long term. They do not care about the fucking country. They care about how they look. That's it. That's the only fucking thing. Short term, small dick fucks. One of the issues with the corporation tax is generous changes. Is that it could ramp up corporation debt, because you'll be able to deduct financing costs off of corporation tax, meaning that even bad ideas could turn into money-making ideas for corporations if they are able to claim against tax. In essence, this is placing incentives on loss-making plans. Which, can you see the crazy? Can you see the crazy, or is it just? It can't just be me, can't it? No. I know there is. It's there. We'll go on to the potentially good bit, which is childcare. This is the bit that will probably be remembered for the future. Lovely. Oh, childcare. Yeah. Hunt is going to extend the 30 hours of free provisions to parents of children between the ages of 9 and 3 years for parents who are both working. Cost of childcare is, of course, one of the main reasons we have seen a rise in gender pay inequality. Now, we have not seen this move to all children. That's important to remember. This is only for working parents, both parents working. It's a look to incentivize parents into working. This is just to get more people to work. It is supporting working families. It has nothing to do with the children. Of course it doesn't. Why would you? It is supporting people who would have probably already have spent money on childcare. It is supporting them. That's the reality of it. Doesn't make it bad, it's just what it is. That's just the reality. The government also have to make sure 2 big things. One, don't get screwed over by private childcare companies ramping up the prices because they know that the government is going to be covering them. We've seen this time and time again with our private companies involved in public sector stuff. The government's negotiation talents are non-existent. 2, not pricing it so low that these same companies just fuck off. That's an important thing to do. There are many other bits. We're coming to the end, so there are many other bits on the budget. Not going to go through them all because I'm not insane. You got things like alcohol tax to rise in line with inflation, but then they claim some arbitrary Brexit win with pub beer being taxed less than fucking supermarket beer or fucking... What tedious people. The government subsidy limiting typical household energy bills to £2,500 a year is to be extended by 3 months, which is a good thing, needed thing, and it was dumb to think it wasn't going to happen. The fact that their plan was to cut it is crazy, really crazy. Immigration rules are going to be relaxed on 5 sectors because of cheap labour. That's the reason for that. Finally, this is basically the rundown of where we are. Typical real household disposable incomes are on track to remain lower by 2027 to 28 than before the pandemic, 2019 to 2020, which will give us about 20 years of stagnation. Taxes as a share of GDP are at a 70-year high of 37.7% by 2027-28, equivalent to £4,200 extra for every household since 2019-2020. We are poorer. We will be poorer. It will continue, and you have to get rid of this government. That's it. I don't give a fuck who you vote for after. Vote for the fucking Reform Party if that gives you the horn. Don't care. Just have to get rid of this party. They have spent 13 years making us poorer. Ridiculous. Well, that was something, wasn't it? We'll be back again.